Welcome to today's episode, brought to you by the Women in Medicine Summit, a transformational CME conference happening September 13th to 14th at the Drake Hotel in Chicago. Engage in leadership programming, learn negotiation skills, receive on-site coaching and mentoring, and see who will win this year's I Stand With Her awards. This year, we're excited to offer unique programming that includes a special session on how using improv comedy can bring fun back into medicine. We also have financial sessions tailored to help you navigate the complexities of personal and professional finances. Discover ways to advance into leadership roles, combat burnout, and either reignite your love for your current role or find joy in a new career path. Don't forget our Friday evening gala, a highlight this year you definitely won't want to miss. Register now at womeninmedicinesummit.org and be part of the movement that is shaping the future of healthcare. Join us to network, learn, and celebrate the power of women in medicine.
Even the last shift I worked at the trauma center, I loved it. I love emergency medicine. I love the adrenaline. I love the challenge. I love the teamwork. I love all of it. And if the price, I guess is how I would put it, if the price wasn't so high, if the cost had not been so high, I would absolutely still be there. But my life situation was changing. When I chose emergency medicine, I was warned, nights, weekends, holidays, really? Are you sure that's what you want to do the rest of your life? And I'm like, oh, it's fine. I'll work half the month, have half the month off, more or less. It's fine. And so I didn't, at that point in my life, it wasn't a super high cost.
Welcome to the Revitalizing Doctor podcast. We explore with our guests how you can move from surviving to thriving as a physician. We know that when you connect with your values and authenticity, you can live a life that is fulfilling and not only good for you, but drives the necessary transformation in healthcare to take better care of our physicians, which means better care for our patients. I am very excited today to have Dr. Miranda Phillips, who is the co-founder of Elite Wealth and Wellness, with us on the podcast today. She's an entrepreneur, investor, and philanthropist, along with an international speaker and a physician. She started practicing medicine in 2009, and she has a love for helping others to continue to grow. She stands by her lifelong physician oath, do no harm, as she works towards fulfilling her mission of creating wealth and wellness for all. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Andrea. It's a great pleasure to be here.
So I read your bio and you've had a really interesting life journey. How did you choose medicine?
Actually, medicine, I feel like, chose me. Whenever I was a kid, I was raised in a very rural town in Texas, and we didn't have any money. No one in my family had ever graduated college, much less gone off to med school to become even a nurse or a physician at all. And I was involved in church at the time, and the church I was involved in was having a career-oriented mission trip for the youth group. So being 16 years old and never having left that small town, believe it or not, I was kind of excited, like, oh gosh, this is a trip going to international, going to Guatemala. At the time, I had taken, I think, 2 or 3 years of Spanish, and I was like, oh, it'd be so cool to use my Spanish. And plus, I would get to see some of the other career opportunities. And I actually was originally put in the orphanage. So I flew down there, I started out in the orphanage, and then the person that was in the hospital, she wasn't doing well, I guess, with the heat plus cutting and blood and all these other things. And so sight smell got her, I think. And I was asked if I would move over to the hospital and let her take my place at the orphanage. And I said, yeah, of course. And so I moved over there and started working in clinics. I say clinics, which was really going to people's huts and helping them there. We would spend some days doing that. We were there for 2 weeks total. And then some days would be in the hospital. And what I experienced throughout all of that was just, it was not really, believe it or not, the science or the surgery. It was how impactful people could be on other people, and specifically the physicians and the healthcare team. When I saw patients, and specifically patients' families, and how positively impacted they were by the skill set and the ability to, help others get well or even potentially save their life, the gratitude, the tears, the gratefulness, it was such an impact. And that really left a mark on me. And I thought, this is how I want to spend my life. Like, I want to be able to have a positive impact on others in this uniquely profound way. Maybe it was even a little selfish. I just thought, wow, it's so rewarding, but these people are just, they're so much better off because they get to keep the ones they loved, or maybe not have to take care of them on their deathbed, all these different things. So when I came back from that trip, I actually decided, even though I knew that we didn't have money, I had no idea how I was going to get there, but I knew at that point I was going to become a physician.
And so how old were you when you went on that trip?
16.
Wow. All right. So then you, I'm sure, do the typical thing. You go to college, you go to medical school. Where did you go to med school?
Oklahoma State University is where I went to med school.
All right, great. And then what happened? What residency did you do?
I chose emergency medicine. And the reason I chose it was because I really wanted to be able to help anyone, any age, any time, any place with just about anything. And, if I needed to hand them off to someone, at least I could get them to that point, to where they could be handed off. But I wanted instead of going deep in one specialty, I really wanted a wide scope to be able to help people.
Yeah, I think that resonates with me as well. And many of our listeners are also emergency medicine. And so you did emergency medicine for how many years were you practicing?
I practice, well, technically, I guess I still use my emergency medicine skills because I do a couple of urgent care shifts a week, but I left the trauma center where I was practicing full on emergency medicine in the widest of its scope in January of 2020.
And tell us about that. I mean, you look pretty young to me. So
You're kind.
how long did you practice emergency medicine?
So yeah, let's see. I graduated med school in 2009, entered residency, and then I practiced until January of 2020. And it was an interesting departure. It was probably about 2017, the end of 2017, maybe beginning of 2018, when I started kind of feeling a little bit of pain. And when I say pain, even the last shift I worked at the trauma center, I loved it. I love emergency medicine. I love the adrenaline. I love the challenge. I love the teamwork. I love all of it. And if the price, I guess is how I would put it, if the price wasn't so high, if the cost had not been so high, I would absolutely still be there. But my life situation was changing. When I chose emergency medicine, I was warned, nights, weekends, holidays, really? Are you sure that's what you want to do the rest of your life? And I'm like, oh, it's fine. I'll work half the month, have half the month off, more or less. It's fine. And so I didn't, at that point in my life, it wasn't a super high cost to me. And as I got older, I had a family, I had a relationship. At the time that I really started feeling pain, I actually was a single mom. And my child was around the age of 8 years old. And my little buddy had always been the most understanding young man. And he would even protect my sleep time. Oh, it was just so sweet. It still touches my heart. He got to a point in his life where he really needed me in a very profound way. And I'll kind of leave it at that. But suffice it to say that for all you moms out there, whenever your child needs you, and then when you're the only one that can really help in a profound situation, and when it comes down to that versus your own well-being versus your career, we all know what comes first. And so that's at the time, I guess that was when it became too high of a cost for me to stay. And so I started making another plan. And at the time I was dating a guy who is now my husband. And he was in a similar situation as a single dad. And he was going through a really rough patch. And he really needed more time to be able to spend outside of his career. So we kind of embarked on this journey separate but together. And we really needed to find kind of a plan B. And in doing so, we discovered that we didn't have time to go find another job. And so we needed a way to be able to increase our income in a way that didn't require us to spend more time creating it, but that would be there if we decided that we could no longer practice medicine. And that was just kind of a safety net for us. I think as a single parent, you think about that more, at least I did. It was more of I'm not depending on anyone else to support me, and I still need to be able to support my son and I. And so I need an income. Even if I need to step away from my job, I got to figure this out. And that was when I discovered investing, and specifically passive investing. And so I ended up on this journey of making time that I didn't have, but because it was a priority, figuring out how to invest in a way that I could put my money to work. Since, I mean, I had enough of that. All of us as zero docs know that, we can make ends meet pretty well and create extra money where we want it. And so I took that and I invested it after doing my due diligence and education and getting some mentors to help. And by the time I left the trauma center, my passive income had specifically already surpassed what my emergency medicine salary was. And so I felt like I was in a very safe place financially to be able to step away and take care of some other priorities. And so that's exactly what I did. And ultimately, I was able to take care of things and get life rebalanced and optimize my own health again. I had several leadership hats that required me to have multiple phones on me all the time, 24/7, 365, even when I was traveling. And so I really, I had no way just to create the time I needed until I stepped fully away and kind of hit the reset button. And so when I did that, I actually optimized myself again. I discovered lifestyle medicine and healed my own health. And fortunately, there's nothing, catastrophic, but, optimize my health again, start sleeping, 7 hours plus again, eating healthy, having relationship time. And that's whenever I think the soot, if you will, and ash started to blow away off of my little light inside of me that chose me for medicine. And I really started feeling this motivation again of like, man, I love what I'm doing. I love being financially free. I love having time for me and for family and relationships and charity. But I love seeing patients too. I really wanted to be able to have patient care in my life again. And so that's when I was so fortunate to find the urgent care system that I'm working within now, where, the shifts are always Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. And I just work one or two, just enough to satiate, my cravings, if you will. And then I still do, mission work and such internationally. So I feel like I'm so very blessed and so very privileged to be in the position that I'm at today, where I just love everything about my life. If you had asked me, on a scale of 0 to 10 back in 2017, 2018, how happy are you with life? I honestly probably would have answered a 3-ish. And it got that high because I was still in love with emergency medicine. So it was that high of a score for that reason. But now when that question is asked to me, I say a 9.5. And I say a 9.5 because there's always room to just tweak it a little bit more, which I continually strive to do. But life is so different now that I feel like my values are more aligned now. In my entire life, everything's integrated. And so I feel like I have high integrity again in that, I'm really honoring what my values are in my life right now and still being able to give back and help others at the same time. It's kind of a long answer, but
I love it. And it's so beautiful. And it's really courageous. And it's what people need to hear because, Linda and I have countless conversations with women physicians every week. And this past week, I spoke to 2 physicians that were quitting a typical emergency medicine practice. And there's such shame, such guilt, such fear of a loss of identity. And thankfully, we also work with women going through that process and we see them on the other side. And the vast majority of the time, it's this story. I mean, your story is unique, but the pieces are similar, that you got clear on your values and your boundaries, and you embraced the possibilities of a new life that could be even better than the one we dreamt about when we were in medical school. And it's okay for dreams to change.
Absolutely. Yeah, you said it right on. And it's it's kind of tough to think about. Like you said, it's the identity that we have. It's where we've spent and invested all of our time and our energy for so many years. And I remember at the time people kind of saying, you remember how hard you worked to get here, right? Like, are you sure you want to leave? Like, is that really what you want to do? And at the time, I didn't exactly have a clear answer for them. I just thought, well, again, I know what my priorities are. And I know that my top priority right now is not getting any attention. And that's absolutely, that can't be, again, I say that's my son and what he needed at the time. And I said, ultimately, whenever I reflected back and I thought about how can I help people understand this analogy? And the best one I could come up with, which is not the best one, but it's the best I've got. And the analogy I came up with was like, I would ask people, well, imagine this. Imagine you're underground digging a tunnel and you dig and you dig and you dig and you dig and you dig. You dig for like 10, 15 years. And what you're digging this tunnel for is to get to this perfect paradise. Whatever your definition of paradise is, that's what you're digging to get to. So 10, 15 years later, after digging underground, you pop up, you break through the surface and you've reached your paradise, except you didn't reach your paradise. Somewhere in there, you ended up tunneling a little in the wrong direction, and now you've landed in a prison cell. Would you just sit there the rest of your life because you spent 10 or 15 years digging yourself into that prison cell? Like, would you just stay there because you spent so many years doing it? Or would you get back down and start digging again until you get to that paradise that you were dreaming of? And the reason I use that analogy is because I think everyone would say, well, of course, no, I wouldn't decide to spend the rest of my life in a prison cell if that's where I landed inadvertently. And so even though emergency medicine is clearly far from being a prison cell, whenever we're not honoring our values, when our priorities and that hierarchy of them get inverted, that's what it can end up feeling like for someone. And we may not explicitly say it, we may not tell people, but that's what we're feeling inside because it's hurting us so badly. And that's why I say a high cost or a high price. We may still love emergency medicine. I mean, love it, love it, love it, love it. But when that cost is too high, the pain that you feel from that never goes away. And it becomes so painful that finally there's enough pain that you end up moving. You end up making a change. You end up doing something different. But for all those people that question and say, are you real? Are you sure? You're the only one that knows that you're sure because you're the one that knows your circumstances. And even though other people have been in the same little bunny hole with you for a long time, your healthcare team, your administration, your colleagues, your even former residency, directors and admins, and they still have no idea the details of your life. Even if you tried to tell them, I don't know about you, but for me, when I tried to explain it, I still couldn't quite do justice to what I was living. And because I couldn't be completely, disclosing about all the situations, because some were kind of private and things. And so I think that, at the end of the day, we have to make those decisions and we have to make the decision that's right for our life. And the beautiful thing is that just like you, Andrea, and Linda, and myself, and others, there's people that we made those tough decisions. We got uncomfortable, and then we emerged into this beautiful world that we never even really knew existed and that we didn't know was an option at the time. And now we're super happy for it. And so I think that's, what I love about what you and Linda provide as resources and what you're doing is that you're a fantastic source of information and resource to help people that were in my situation know what your options are and help people understand that you're not just jumping off a cliff, hoping you can build the airplane on your way down. There's actually options and there's ways to continue to practice medicine, but in a way that's better aligned with what your situation is, what your current values are, what your current priorities are.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked about that very concept on the podcast before that only you really know the intricacies of your life. And you really don't owe other people explanations. And I learned that very early on. I got a divorce during medical school, and there was a lot of guilt and shame around that. And then finally, one day, I just realized, nobody else really knows what's happening in this situation besides me. And this is my life. And I only have one life, and I'm going to do what's best for me. And I really don't care what anyone else thinks about the situation. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Are you a physician mom with school-aged children feeling utterly exhausted? My friend Dr. Sheeta Shaffi invites you to take a little time this summer to join her in a small, intimate group for meaningful conversations. Dr. Shaffi is an emergency physician, coach, and mom to 8-year-old twins. She understands firsthand what you're going through. This isn't a pizza party or a yoga class. You'll meet for 2 one-hour sessions twice a month starting in July to help you move out of exhaustion, let go of mom guilt, and live a life you're not only proud of, but can truly enjoy. Connect with her on LinkedIn or Instagram at Sheeta Shaffi to learn more. Sheeta is spelled Shideh, and Shaffi is spelled Shafie. You can also check the show notes for a link so you can connect with her there as well.
Absolutely. There's a good book, and I am going to blank on the name of it. It was written by a hospice nurse, though, and she spent a lot of time with people in the last, months and weeks of their life. And she started asking them the same questions over and over again, because she was curious to hear the answers. And one of the questions that she asked was, what's your number one regret in life? And the most common answer that she got was not living the life that was true to myself, but instead trying to live a life that was pleasing to others. And I think that that's powerful. And that certainly has helped me in my little lighthouse, my guidance of, I don't want to be on my deathbed and have a ton of regrets. I really don't. And I know that it's never comfortable being uncomfortable, but we can, to a degree, get comfortable being uncomfortable, which means that we get used to it, and we just get used to putting ourselves in uncomfortable situations. And honestly, if we can be resourceful, it doesn't matter how uncomfortable of a situation we're in, like there's light on the other side. We absolutely can get through it, and we absolutely will. It's all about mindset in that way. It's about the determination, the belief that there is something better out there for me. There is a better situation for me. And then having the resourcefulness to figure out how to put those pieces together so that you can create your most beautiful life ever. And again, that's where you guys really have my respect and admiration, you and Linda both, because that's what you help with people. You help them put those pieces together because you guys have a bigger perspective. And when we are hurting that bad and we know we need a change, I don't know about you, but I got tunnel vision. I couldn't see outside my own box. And so it probably would have been a much quicker process for me to get to the other side. And I probably would have done it slightly differently if I had had that outside resource, someone outside of my box to be able to look inside my box and say, here's what I see. Here's also what I see outside of your situation. Here's what I've seen other people do. And here's how I've seen other people succeed and other women that have gone through your similar situation. And I think that brings a lot of hope. And I think it also helps people in that situation have the confidence to believe that there's absolutely a better situation out there for me. And I am going to be so much happier in it. I just need to have the fortitude and the perseverance to just break through those walls and get to the other side.
I want to take a quick break and tell you about an upcoming program offered by Revitalize Women Physician Circle. We are offering the Women Leadership Mastermind, which will start on February 22nd and meet virtually for 6 months. This program is designed specifically for women physician leaders, and if you're listening to the podcast, that's you, to provide resources, support, and accountability to break through barriers, increase your influence, and achieve your goals. The mastermind format will help you see challenges in a new light and offer many new perspectives so you can overcome the toughest challenges with success and gain more leadership presence. You will be gaining access to other high-achieving women physician leaders in roles from the department to the C-suite, and you'll help each other along on this journey to make healthcare better for both patients and, of course, the physicians. If this sounds interesting to you, please send us an email at revitalize.info@gmail.com, and either myself or Dr. Linda Lawrence will meet with you to discuss if you're a good fit for this program. I want to talk a little bit about the specifics around your business, Elite Wealth and Wellness, and specifically around the investing side, because I'm sure you're aware that there's a lot of people that target physicians and, have various things that they, tell us that they're going to make us rich. And there's a lot of different entities out there. So I think some listeners, when they hear investing, they immediately get nervous and they're like, you know what? I'm just going to stay at the place with my retirement plan and pension. I can't do something like that, especially right now with how risky the stock market is.
Absolutely. No, it's a great question. And I was right there, believe it or not. I really did not. I didn't even take any business classes in college. I had no business background. I had no, again, no one in my family that I could ask or use as a resource. I kind of had to figure it all out on my own, which is probably why it took longer than it needed to. But really, I was in a situation where I had a financial advisor. And whenever I started talking to my financial advisor about, I need income now. Like, it's great to have income 30 or 40 years from now, but I need to figure out a way to create cash flow now. And my advisor, a great person, love him to death. We still keep in contact with each other. And but his expertise, and you kind of have to understand that most financial advisors, when they get licensed and they get committed to Wall Street, more or less, and certain types of vehicles. And real estate does not fall within that wheelhouse. And as a matter of fact, some of them that get licensed, actually, I think the majority, I'm still learning this piece. I think the majority of those that get licensed to do that kind of work, I don't even think they can get into real estate. It's an interesting thing. I have some friends who are trying to leave that world and become full-time real estate investors now, and they're having trouble because there's some legal ramifications of being licensed in that way. But all that to say, there are people that have their own specialties, if you will, in the financial world as well. And so you have to understand what, when someone brings us as physicians an offer or a package or a deal, whenever they come to us and say, here's what I can do for you, it's important to ask the questions, well, help me understand what you do for yourself. And, if they are invested in just one type of asset like paper, then you have to understand they're probably going to be a little bit tunnel vision. They probably won't be the best person to get information from when it comes to other asset classes. I think the best way for a physician to be able to understand what's right for them financially is to get educated. And it doesn't have to be as crazy of a process as going and getting an MBA or a financial degree. Honestly, the way I did it was, again, mentors are super helpful. So I hired a mentor, a financial mentor who was a CPA, was their background. And they worked with me for 12 months and they coached me. And they coached me into doing the work that needed to be done to understand different asset classes. And they helped me where I needed help. And so I understood, like, from A to Z, what all the different investment vehicles were that were out there. And then once I realized that multifamily investing, apartment investing was going to be the right vehicle for me, I had no time. I had extra money as a physician, and I needed to grow fast. And I needed to have income coming now, not like 10 or 15 or 20 years from now, or even longer than that away. So apartment investing was the right vehicle for me. But then I've never invested in apartments. So I thought, okay, now what? And so I hired another mentor, and for another substantial amount of money. But again, it was worth it to me. At the time, it felt a little risky, like, oh gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. Here's a lot of money to drop, on a mentor. But the mentor helped me get invested in apartments and start winning. And then whenever I got invested and started seeing that money come back into my account, and mind you, again, the work I did was getting myself educated, which I think is just, unfortunately, there's no shortcut other than it's just not as complicated as one would think, especially when you've got resources and people that have already been there and done that can help you. But basically, once I got that mentor and got invested and started seeing that, hey, this machine works, I started learning more about it, because then it became really fun. And then eventually I had so much money invested that I was like, man, I need to take this to another level and learn even more, because at this point, I've got so much money at risk that I need to make sure I'm understanding even what's going on in the background, not just handing my money to someone and trusting them to make money for me. And the trust is a big thing, right? You have to, for me, I don't invest with anyone I don't know. I get to know them. I have a relationship with them. I learn that we're trusting each other, and I get comfortable with that before I ever invest with them. And I think that's highly critical, because I think that relationship capital is more valuable than just financial capital. And so that's a really, really important piece to all of this. But whenever I started learning more about what was happening in the background, that was whenever I thought, man, this is amazing. Like, I love the team sport, kind of like the ER, it's a team sport. And the teams that come together, from my perspective, it have to be a synergistic team. It has to be a team that everyone trusts each other. Everyone wants to help each other however they need to help each other, so that everyone can win together. So when I learned that piece of it, I got even more intrigued, and I thought, man, this is amazing, because I knew how well I was doing and how much money I was able to make through this process. And I thought, man, I want to be able to help other physicians who are in positions like I was in do the same thing, especially like single moms out there that are like, I know I need to change, but it's scary financially to do so. I mean, if there is anyone out there that, you're scared financially, I was there. That was totally me. Again, single mom, I've got to bring money in. And so I had to get this figured out. Like, I had no choice. And so making time to figure all this out on my own really was it was the obvious. It was the given. It was what I had to do. And so now I really love that I've been doing it long enough now. And now I've been on the other side where I see and participate and help manage, the properties that I invest in, that now, we create opportunities for other people. And that was kind of how Elite Wealth and Wellness came to be, was because people started asking me, some of my friends and my colleagues, started asking, what are you doing? Like, how are you, able to leave the emergency department? They knew as a single mom, like, you're a single mom, you're getting ready to leave. Like, how are you doing all of this? And so I started answering all these questions and having the same conversations over and over again. And so, I decided, well, maybe, and my husband was the same way, because he was doing it. Again, we were kind of doing this together, but separate financially at the time. And he was the same way. Like, his colleagues and his friends were asking him, how are you doing this? What are you doing? And so since we started having the same conversations over and over again, we finally decided, maybe we should record some videos. And so in the beginning, we just recorded some videos, and we ended up creating just like a one-page, website, and kind of threw these free videos up there and just directed people to that. And it was several hours worth of videos, because you can imagine, investing is not just a 1 hour conversation of how do you do it, and what do you do, and what do you need, and how do you get to where you want to go. And so we ended up just building on that, and we built more videos and built out our website, and eventually just became this education platform. And so now we help other physicians who really need to go ahead and start getting some passive cash flow now and building that wealth for themselves. That's kind of where our little niche is. We're able to kind of help them get into an environment where they can trust who they're with, and that people that have track records, including us, we have track records now, and we can, show what our wins have been and all the proceeds and everything, and then help people really understand how they can go ahead and get started creating that passive income, so that they can get financially free and get that financial security.
That's awesome. And we'll definitely have in the show notes your website. And is that the best way for people to get in touch with you if they would be interested in learning more about investing?
Yeah, absolutely. I can be emailed at Miranda, Miranda at elitewealthandwellness.com. The and is spelled out in all one word. So yeah, feel free to reach out. You can send me an email. I'm always happy to help any way that I can at any time. I know how difficult it is to get through certain situations, especially whenever, again, if I can only speak to my former self, a single mom, and I remember so well what that felt like, and the discomfort and the concerns, but knowing what my priorities were. And so, anytime I can help anybody, please feel free to shoot me an email, Miranda at elitewealthandwellness.com. Always happy to help.
Do you have a challenge at work that's going to require you to persuade someone? Join us on January 24th at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern to tackle how you can persuade more authentically. These are monthly Rev Rooms that we offer virtually, and it's an opportunity for you to connect with like-minded women physicians, gain new insights, and walk away with practical new actions to be your authentic self and deepen your sense of purpose in your career and life. If you'd like to register for this month's Rev Room, send us an email at revitalizmm.info@gmail.com for the link, and we're excited to see you there. We will be there every month on the fourth Tuesday, so check the website to learn more about the upcoming Rev Rooms. So we don't have a ton of time, but I want to touch briefly on the lifestyle side of what you're doing. And I've had conversations with a few physicians that have gone through the Revitalize courses and programs, and a couple do have lifestyle medicine certifications. Or is that something you have, or did you train on it on your own, or what was your path?
Yeah, I did. So whenever I left the trauma center in January of 2020, I was in a search for what that optimal life looked like. Like, how do you live your best, healthiest, both physically and mentally healthiest life ever? What does a human require for that? And so I dug into the research, and I'm totally an evidence-based person. I'm all data. I love data. I'm very that side of my brain is like very strong. And so I dug into the data and the research, and that's actually where I discovered that there were people that had already done this work, and they created the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. And so that was whenever I turned my attention to the college and started learning more about lifestyle medicine as a specialty. And it resonated with me so much so that I went ahead and pursued board certification and started practicing, if you will, on friends and family, just making recommendations of how they could tweak their lifestyle, and was able to get people off of cholesterol medicines, blood pressure medicines, reverse type 2 diabetes. It's been so much fun. And it started with recovering myself first, and really just understanding that there are some critical things that we need as humans. And if we neglect them, there's going to be consequences. And if we tend to them, there's going to be great reward. And so I feel like, lifestyle medicine played a huge role in recovering me as a person and as a physician. And now I get to utilize those skill sets. So whenever in my practicing world, in my medicine world now, as I mentioned, spend like maybe 1 or 2 shifts a week doing urgent care, but I also spend about 1 day a week doing lifestyle medicine, where I actually get to see patients and help them optimize their lifestyle for people who are wanting that. Before, some of them, they're getting to that point where, oh no, medicine has been recommended, but I don't want to get on a bunch of medicines. Or, I'm talking to surgeons and here's their recommendations, but I want to see if this is fixable through lifestyle first, so I don't have to do a surgery. And so I've been able to really enjoy the reward of helping people in that way too. So yeah, I love lifestyle medicine. The American College of Lifestyle Medicine is a great, great, great resource for people, especially physicians who feel like they're burning out or feel like something's just not right in their life, that they're just not living their best life ever, and they need to kind of troubleshoot it. The college is great.
And when you say you see patients 1 day per week, do you see them in person or virtually or a mix?
I do telemedicine for the lifestyle medicine piece. Urgent care, I do in person. And then the lifestyle medicine, I do it through telemedicine. And that has been really convenient for patients as well. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I do.
That's awesome. So I can tell that you are very fit. While this is a podcast, we're on video while we're recording. And we always like to ask our guests a few closing questions. So what do you do to stay fit?
I have a little bit of a routine. On a bad week, I'm only in the gym 3 days a week, but most weeks I would say I'm usually there 4 to 5 days a week. During the warm months, I like to be outside. So especially in nature, I love the warmth and the sun. So I'll go out and I may run a few miles around the neighborhood during the summer. During the winter, I'll run in the gym on the treadmill. And so typically my workouts look fairly similar in that I always get my cardio in. And so I'll spend about 10 to 20 minutes doing really vigorous cardio. And then I go over to weights. And then I'll spend probably about 45 minutes to an hour. Sometimes I'll go 2 hours. It depends, but that's rare just because my schedule is usually a little tight. So usually it's an hour, and I will hit every muscle group, and I'll do 3 sets of about 8 to 12 reps for each muscle group. So just kind of a circuit, if you will. And I go at a pretty nice clip so that my heart rate stays up high enough that it still counts as moderate to exercise. And so I'm getting that much, moderate exercise plus the vigorous. And so I'm addressing, from my perspective, my cardiovascular health, but then I'm also addressing resistance training for muscle health, which of course, especially for women, is critically important. I feel like sometimes that gets lost on us, but cardio is only half of the equation. And so keeping our strength and our muscles, and then of course, stretching is important as well. And, for when I can include yoga in my day, I definitely will. But unfortunately, that's one of my areas of improvement. I need to do that more often. I love it when I do it. I need to make more time for it.
Yeah, I think that's a great message for our listeners. And I have a recording with one of my friends that's a personal trainer. I think I'm going to save for January, when many people are making fitness New Year's resolutions. And he's very big on weightlifting. And, I think a lot of my physician friends love cardio. They love to run. And I think there's some overlap in kind of that running culture with the way our brains work and the way we're kind of programmed in medicine. But if you're only doing cardio, it may actually be making things worse.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're totally right. I mean, there's a lot of things that doing that resistance training helps with. I'm sure the podcast that you release in January is going to really speak to that. But we need that resistance on our bones to help strengthen our bones, and it also stimulates growth hormone and other hormones just naturally in our body that help us to do a lot of things, including like anti-aging. Right? How many people get on growth hormone and other hormones that are similar to it, just to try to keep themselves from aging as fast? Well, it's a natural stimulator of growth hormone. And so it's something that keeps us young for longer in a natural way. So but that's just scratching the surface, of course. There's so many benefits that I'm sure you guys will speak to.
Yeah, well, it sounds like we need to have you back to talk more just about the lifestyle medicine side of things. And it's really an area I'm interested in, because I think physicians, unfortunately, are some of the unhealthiest people. And my dream, I'm going to put this out in the universe. I'd love to have a lifestyle / functional medicine practice for physicians. And I've been running experiments on myself with tracking heart rate variability, and I've gone through a functional medicine workup. And, I think most physicians probably suffer from adrenal suppression and all the various things that we've done to ourselves and had done to us, frankly, because the system really doesn't give us another way. When we're in residency, you don't really have a choice about when you sleep and what food is at the cafeteria. It's pretty brutal.
It is. You're absolutely right. And I totally agree with you. The adrenal suppression, every ER doc has it. They have it, right? It only makes sense. So yeah, I would love to come back and speak to the lifestyle medicine piece, and would be happy to. Got our clinic, the clinic that I do the lifestyle medicine out of is called Sahavita Institute. We're actually based out of Sarasota, but it was started up by me and 2 other female physicians who also experienced burnouts in their careers and wanted to put together a lifestyle medicine based clinic. And so that's what we started up down in Sarasota, and actually started it up earlier this year. So we're still in ground zero build up phase and building up our patients and everything. But with that said, I mean, anytime you want to talk lifestyle medicine, like that's definitely a passion of mine now as well. So always happy to do so.
The way we end every podcast, well, a lot of podcasts, is we want to speak to that physician that's maybe driving to their ER shift right now or their other shift, and they're dreading it. They can feel it in their chest. They're maybe gripping the steering wheel a little tight, and they just don't really know how they're going to get out of this tunnel or this hole that they're in. What's your one piece of advice for this person today?
My one piece of advice would be to say that I was absolutely there. Unfortunately, again, as much as I loved emergency medicine, I had the same reactions when I was driving into work. But again, it was more because of the cost of what it meant for me to do it. And so in that space, that's where I felt like I didn't know what my options were. All I knew is I had to do something. And so what I would really, truthfully from the heart, what I would say is that, Andrea, you and Linda are a phenomenal resource that I didn't have when I was in that place. And even just a conversation with you guys, and I mean, just reaching out to say, hey, here's my situation, Andrea, what do you think? Or Linda, here's my situation. Do you see hope? Do you have any way do you think you can help me? And I know that you guys are going to have the answer of, yes, here's what I see from my perspective, and here's resources, and here's other people that have been where you're at, and here's what they've done. And I think just hearing what the options are, that there is hope, that there are options, and that people, believe it or not, have been exactly where you're at and have felt exactly the way you're feeling, whether it's probably other colleagues even, and they're not telling you because we don't advertise it. We just don't. That's the way that we were brought up in medicine, and that's just how strong we are as independent women. So we're just not talking about it. But I promise you, there's a whole world of us that have been exactly where you're at right now. And having a resource like Andrea or Linda, be able to reach out to them and just say, here's my situation, and let them help you. Oh my goodness, mentorship, not just in one area of life, but in any area where you need help. If you can find a mentor or a coach that can help you, the right mentor and coach can be absolutely priceless, and they can turn your world upside down in the best of ways into something you never even thought possible.
I love that. I mean, that's what Linda and I say all the time. Stop going at it alone. You're programmed to do that in medicine. There's this cowboy, cowgirl culture of you're supposed to be able to handle everything and this, facade. Just have a conversation. And whether it's me or Linda, we've got so many different contacts out there. We're just about getting you connected to what's going to help you thrive. And it's different for every person, but it's courageous to reach out for help, and it's taboo. And we hope that changes in the next few years, that it becomes the norm that everybody has a coach. Everybody needs a coach for something at some point in their life. You think about your youth. Most of us had tons of coaches, from athletics to, you could extrapolate that to if you were at church or, whatever extracurriculars you did. And then somehow we get to adult life and we don't need coaches. We don't need teachers. We don't need helpers. It's just bizarre to me.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, mentors and coaches are the ultimate leverage, because you can do things so much faster. I mean, you could probably figure it out on your own, if you have enough pain and enough perseverance and drive, but why spend all that extra time, whenever you can have a coach or mentor who's already seen it all and can help you get there so much faster. It's absolutely right. And just to insert this quick little bit, Linda and I, worked together with the same ER group for many, many years. And so I knew her on a personal note. And it's funny, I never really went to her as a coach. However, she always had this just kind of air of wisdom about her and would offer these little pearls that were very guiding, throughout the years. And she, I don't know you yet, Andrea, as well as I know Linda, but I know that she has been an amazing resource for me throughout the years, whether she knows it or not. Just her leadership and her leading by example and all the things that she's been through in her life is just, it's amazing. It's amazing to have you guys as resources. So absolutely reach out to these guys. I mean, gosh, again, I'd never had Andrea or Linda as a resource that I knew of at the time that I could go to and talk to. But if I was in that same situation again, that's exactly what I would do.
Oh, I love this. Well, Miranda, it has been an absolute joy. For our listeners, please check out her website, elitewealthandwellness.com. And the and is completely spelled out, and it'll be in the show notes. Thank you. This has been just an enlightening and heartwarming conversation.
Thank you, Andrea. You're too kind. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Revitalizing Doctor podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Revitalize Women Physician Circle, founded by Dr. Linda Lawrence and Dr. Andrea Austin, your host. You can connect with us on our website at www.peoplealwayshcc.com/revitalize. You can tweet at us at Revitalize Women, and please connect with us on LinkedIn at Revitalize Women Physician Circle. We look forward to helping you go from surviving to thriving. This podcast represents our opinions and the opinions of our guests. It does not represent any entity that we work for or with, including the military, the government, or any other institution. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again soon.
Hi, it's Dr. Risa E. Lewis, dropping in to tell you about a book that Dr. Adara Landry and I wrote. It's called Microskills, Small Actions, Big Impact. It's a business self-help book coming in 2024 by HarperCollins. Pre-order now. Microskills, Small Actions, Big Impact, wherever you buy your books.